Oh, so nice to be together. Hello, everybody. It's a sweet little group tonight coming together. It's kind of like being back home. I want to welcome everybody online to our evening. Um, yeah, I was really happy when they opened this again. It felt like the heartbeat, it's still alive. Just when Dharma centers close, it's not a good feeling, and stuff starts like, oh, that was like a beacon. So anyway, happy to be here, happy to be with you all. And my name is Spring. And tonight we're going to explore some teaching, some practice, some heart practice. I want to welcome those online. And just, I'm a very casual teacher, just kind of go with the flow if you know me. I'm a flowy teacher, and I like that. Hopefully you will too. But what we're going to do is sit a bit and then just share some teachings about meeting the moment. It's really sweet. I live in Atlanta, Georgia now. I lived in California years and years and a spirit rock teacher and founded a center in Oakland. And then I went to Atlanta to start a project there, a Dharma project. And so this is my first time back in Southern California in a while, like maybe a year. And for those of you who are at the event over the weekend, 80th birthday celebration, it was really sweet to be there with Jack and Trudy and Dan and George Mumford and then me. It was fun to be there and share. So that's kind of why I came down to for the 80th birthday party. And then it was like, well, why don't you teach? So I was like, sure, I haven't been in here for a while and I was just delighted. So happy to be with you all. So before we start, and maybe those of you online as well, before we get into it, I just want to always spend a couple moments in connection with each other. That's how we arrive in spaces. Sometimes I worry that meditation centers can feel cold, right? One thing about Georgia, it reminds me a lot of South America. It's very like I don't know, people squeeze you and stuff, and it's very touchy-feely. But here we're all kind of like we're still, we've gone through a lot together, but we're very um distant, socially distant. We've been trying to train. Thank you. All right, well, we're gonna practice unless anyone else has anything they want to share about how your heart is, and I'll take this. And the idea tonight was just to kind of check in together, do some practice, um and then share some dharma and reflect together. You know, one of the things that I like to do is just remind you all that we're all just reminding each other. Like the collective wisdom. I always like to tap the collective wisdom. It's not like the teacher comes and tells you all the Dharma stuff. It's like, no, we share a space and in the wisdom that arises, we all grow in the Dharma together. So I just like to always invite that. So thank you all for sharing in the Dharma and those online. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on the floor because I like to meditate on the floor. So let's do this, everybody. Just start to get comfortable. I'm just going to shift this over and sit on the floor, and then I'll pick it up again as we need to. So find yourself in a comfortable position, and we're going to do a little bit of a body scan. So as you sit, just begin to arrive and settle in your body, and maybe taking a big breath in and a big breath out, and just arrive. We have all this space in here. Just breathe out. And as you're breathing out, just you're coming into your your body. Imagine you're floating in from the crown. So let's just soften together, arrive. So relax your face and your jaw. And see, as you do a body scan, you're just softening all the parts of your body. So becoming aware of your shoulders, and maybe you want to move your shoulders around. This is a place where we carry the weight of the world. This is where we have so much pain, a lot of times in the shoulders and back. So just soften, move, and let go if you need to do some neck turns. And just invite your body to let go of anything that it's holding. We don't even realize it until we begin to feel ourselves and become aware of the body. Then we think, God, everything is so tight. So it's just softening as you become aware, now moving into your arms and your hands, and feel your hands and soften your hands. Now feeling down into your chest area and right at the heart center, take some deep breaths in and out of the heart. Imagine your whole heart. There's a giant space to breathe, and breathe in through the chest and breathe out. And as you breathe out, allow your whole chest and back to just settle. And you might feel nervous or excited or tingling or heaviness, motions. And as you become aware of your chest more and more now, bring your awareness deep into your belly now, underneath the belly button. Take some deep belly breaths. Just fill your whole belly up on the inhale. And then as you exhale, let the whole belly soften, expand, and let go of anything in the belly. Tightness, holding, clenching. This is connected to the nervous system. It's where we digest life, is in the belly. So soften and expand. And now feeling your sitting bones. Really feel the contact of the chair. Feel the cushion. And arrive and settle. Let your lower body just root down and feel the contact. And your upper body is like the branches of the tree just reaching for the sky. And feel your hips and your knees, and you're just sweeping your awareness now through the body down to your calves and your ankles, and feeling your feet now in whatever position they're in. And you're just softening into the body. You're arriving, settling and arriving in the moment. And let your heart be met with this kindness, a friendliness, this loving awareness that Ram Dass always talks about. And so you're beginning to feel your breath as an anchor or sensation. But it's nice to rest just with a simple inhale and a simple exhale of wherever you feel the sensations of breathing. Where is it predominant? And just finding that place and just allowing your mind to just settle. Feel the inhalation And then feel the exhalation. Feel the tingling. Feel your whole body if that makes sense. Maybe you feel the breath in the belly or the nose or the chest or wherever wherever you notice it. Let yourself just rest. Just this breath, just this moment. Well, let's practice in this way, kind and settled, present, but relaxed. Just this breath, just this moment. Letting go of thoughts of past and future. Just see if you can just rest in the present moment, just in the body as your anchor. The body is a way we develop awareness through sensation. Just this moment, one breath at a time. And keep softening in your body. Let the breath in the belly just expand. There's nothing to push away or to hold on to. Just this breath and moment. Just this breath, just this moment, letting the stories go and sinking into the body, into the belly, into the heart, into awareness. Just this breath, just this moment, arrive and settle, and softening into the moment. And just softening into the body, into the awareness, and resting with sensation, the sounds, the body sensations, thoughts, everything arises and passes. And we can just be present, training the mind to rest with the breath and softening into the body, into this loving awareness. Just one moment at a time. And for the last few moments of our sitting, just really feeling the softness of the breath in the belly and softening in the body. And just meeting this moment of whatever is arising with this loving awareness. Just this, just the moment, just this experience, meeting the moment as a friend with curiosity, with care. Okay, so take a moment to just move your body a little bit. I know it's 8 o'clock. Nowadays, that's late. As we're getting older, we're like, what time is it? 8 o'clock. What are we doing? It's late. So maybe take a moment, stand up if you need to. Just come into your standing posture a little bit, and we'll just kind of allow ourselves to just move a little bit. And those of you who are called to just shake it out a little or move your legs, or that's a good thing. We have to keep moving right now. Everything's getting a little bit frozen everywhere. You know that feeling? Why is it all so stiff? Frozen. So, yes. And I'm going to move this back. And we're going to do a little bit more meditation. I would like to do a little more metta. I have a heart practice I want to offer, but it'll be short, but a little bit later. And I'll move the chair. And so if you want to take even a moment break here um, to grab some tea or anything, you can do that. That'd be a good time. And really be comfortable in the space. Be comfortable in this in the temple. There we go. And grab your tea. It's just still so nice to be back in here. And just appreciating all the volunteers, that run inside LA right now. And they're running on a love and prayers right now, and just people volunteering to come in tonight and set up and clean up and take out stuff. So it's just good to have like a sense of that. Our center in downtown Oakland, East Bay Meditation Center, early on, we started that center in 2005. Funny how time goes. It was all run on Donna. I was really in radical generosity. And everything. And it was like, well, if you guys want a center, then you're gonna have to help. Just all these people would just do everything, clean up, set up. We had this Buddha in this right in downtown Oakland. We had this location on 23rd and Broadway, and Jack gave us a Buddha from Thailand that was in the residence hall for a long time. It was this giant Buddha. And they brought it over, and there was this picture of us. We were looking through these archival pictures of me and three people trying to carry this Buddha downtown Oakland. And we were like, ah. And we finally like had our grand opening. We put the Buddha in, and it was like, yay, the Buddha's here. It's 23rd and Broadway. And it's still there. Of course, we also have a Tara next to it now, so it balances out. We have there's an altar. And and again, I was thinking about this analogy, everyone, of the trees, going back to that, talking about the big trees and the baby trees. I know it was funny calling Jack an ancient tree, right? But I was thinking about Thich Nhat Hanh. Thank you, all the folks there. What a big tree. My gosh, what a big tree, Thich Nhat Hanh. And I was reflecting on how much that book, Peace with Every Step, meant to me and how it was so simplistic. And the reason that I was actually talking with a group of teachers last night about Thich Nhat Hanh was the simplicity of his clear mind that he could take. We were talking about the Heart Sutra, which is very like form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Everyone's like, what? It feels so philosophical, but he took it down to make it so easy. Not only the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra. Then he also wrote this beautiful book about Jesus. And then I know I wasn't supposed to be thinking while I was meditating, but my thoughts of Thich Nhat Hanh's greatness came to mind. Because, thinking about these trees and the passing of the trees and who's feeding the baby trees. And you don't really realize the magnitude of the tree until it's gone and everyone feels it. It's like when the sun's shining and all of a sudden the fog comes in, everyone's like, oh, I have to put my jacket on now. Right? We're like, oh, you feel the weight of that tree only when it falls. Like, oh, wow, now what are we going to do? Because you don't realize that in the natural world, all the mycelium, all those trees are sending out. And, I was thinking about also over the last couple of months about the redwood trees, how much they hold in California, and the sequoias, those giant, they estimating maybe miles. One of the bigger they are, the more powerful. And you feel the sadness when one's cut. It feels like a crime against just the ultimate because we actually feel the loss of the energy of it. And then the jungle in Peru, in the Amazon rainforest, the biggest trees, I spent a year living with Shipibos in the jungle in 2015 to 2016. And they're called chichiwasi trees. And the chichiwasi trees is the biggest, tallest tree in the Amazon. And the seeds of these trees look like hand carved magical stones, something like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Like we would find them, right? And they were planting chichiwashi trees when I was at this sacred temple. And they were like, Chichiwasi seeds, we got to keep planting these trees. And in the trees, when you would run across one, it would be so big, it was a whole world. It was kind of like it reminded you of one of those condominiums in Tokyo was stacked up and all the people inside, one giant, like kind of like there was worlds in there. That's what I'm trying to. It was like that. Whole ecosystems and these kind of birds over here and this, and it was like a whole world. And the tree was holding light for all of that, and that was just what you could see on the outside. Then the roots we would stand on, they'd be this tall. We'd be having to climb over, like, whoa, we're scaling roots, and that was only on the top. Imagine how deep they went. So those giant chichiwasi trees, and when the indigenous people and the tribes in Brazil, when a chichiwasi tree was cut by somebody who was destroying the fort, it would just be like grief stricken, like a chichiwasi tree. My God, what's happening, right? They were just holding it down. And so there is something I'm still processing about the passing of some of these trees. Joanna Macy recently passed. That was a Chichiwasi tree in my mind, just like, oh, that's an elder. And here's a good thing though about that. I think, it's not that the power of our practice is that we remember the trees that are cut, we do. We do remember them. But there's something about the spirit of these elders that their light doesn't go out when they leave the body, it expands. We were talking a lot. I teach a lot. It was funny, somebody else evoked Ram Dass, right? It's like, oh yes, Baba Ram Dass, Neem Karoli Baba. I teach a lot in that tradition. I'm kind of I guess in a way being groomed a little bit because Jack holds a place in that tradition. Obviously, Ram Dass was one of his dearest friends, and they spent years in friendship and love and connection. And Ram Dass's legacy of this love is going not only bigger, but super bigger now, right? It's like never has his messages on YouTube. It's like he was just here yesterday, right? It's like, oh my gosh, his videos and the music. And in fact, his friends are like, wow, we have this archive and we have to really take care of Ram Dass now. We took care of his body when he was here, but now we have to take care of all this treasure trove of teachings for the next generation. He's really a big tree. A very big tree with deep roots and a lot of meaning. I think particularly Ram Dass because he's like a homegrown saint. We appropriate a lot of we go to India looking, oh, okay, you here, we don't have a lot of American heroes and heroines or awakened people. So Ram Dass holds a particular he has a vibe because like, wait, he was from New York, right? Like that's one of ours. We kind of claim it, and so that feels important, I think, just to remember. But that's also why Harriet Tubman means a lot to people. That's another homegrown hero. Like, wow, we're just still understanding that legacy. We're still understanding that love and that bodhisattva path that she had. Like, wow, so the importance of trees and Thich Nhat Hanh. I'll also say Martin Luther King is another big tree. In Georgia, where I was living, I first moved to Atlanta to start a project there. And I didn't know anybody in Georgia. I hadn't even really been out of the airport when I moved there. It was a calling from Harriet Tubman. You must go to the South. I was planning on Costa Rica. I was like, that's my favorite place. I love it. I'll be in the wild. You guys can all find me in Costa Rica, right? It was like, no, 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 no. And so I went there to meet my dear friend Lama Rod Owens. Some of you might know Lama Rod. He's been a dear friend for years. And he's like, you have to come south with it. And I was like, okay, I can't say it's been easy. It's been I don't know, liberating, and I've had death rebirth literally there, and there's an energy there, blood of love, but whew, something is really hanging on. It's the roots of something there. So these trees, well, so I want to come back to that because it's so important that it's not, we are those trees too, as those trees keep feeding us. And it's not only, if you go back beyond Ramdas, then we look at Siddhartha underneath a Bodhi tree. If you've ever seen a Bodhi tree, you know how big those roots are? Huge. When we were doing pilgrimages in Sarnath, and even out at, you know, even in Bodh Gaya, right? Even that's a little Bodhi tree they replanted off the original one. They say that was a little one, but we saw some bigger ones out and like more in the wild driving through northern India. And we're like, wow, this was a tree. And so those are still feeding us, right? We're still receiving the benefit of those big trees, the energy of them. So, this image goes really deep for all of us, right? And we're receiving those trees and we're learning how to grow into that. We're learning how to become the big trees. And I think it's important for us to start to step into that a little bit, because I think one of the biggest things about our growth is how we see ourselves. If we see ourselves as being powerless right now, we will suffer. If we see ourselves as evolving and we have something to contribute, our very presence is feeding the ecosystem, right? Our very living presence, moment to moment, is feeding the ecosystem. And how I look at our current climate is, wow, we have a lot of sick trees. A few years ago at Spirit Rock, we were all crying because some giant oak trees got this disease that was spreading through all the oak trees. I forget the name of it. Yes. And no, they didn't know why suddenly these gorgeous oak trees, and oak trees also are quite beautiful. And when they're left alone, they grow so big and majestic, right? And all of a sudden, all these trees start dying. It was heartbreaking, actually. And so I really look at our current time like that. Like, we are an ecosystem, we're a community, right? Far beyond just the physical, we're energetic current. Nature shows us that everything is interwoven and interconnected. As we see, the big giant trees are constantly sending energy to the baby trees, even stumps of trees, right? They'll even start to send energy like, whoa, they can sense, oh no, it's been cut, right? And sometimes what happens is the stump, a new tree grows out of it. Even some of these big trees send it to rock. Like, okay, there's something going on. Spirit rock grows out of a what? A rock, right? It grows out of a rock. They found a tree out of a rock and they said, wow, it's a spirit rock. It's half rock and half tree and growing full on. We hide it now because people, when they pointed it out in Marin, people, of course, they wanted to go over, and then they start grabbing it, and then they start chiseling their name on it, and then you start finding cigarette butts out by it, and you're like, no, don't ruin it, people, right? So they kind of hide. They like, no, no, we let people know it becomes a thing. Photo shoots by it, and then next thing you know, it starts to get damaged, right? That's just kind of inevitable. But but here's the thing, it's like there's an intelligence happening. That's what I'm getting to, right? The ecosystem is trying to balance. And people ask me all the time, oh no, what are we doing? I was like, there's a lot of sick trees out here right now. And we've got to become the big trees. Well, how do you do that? How do you become a really healthy, strong tree? Not one of those little ones, but those giant redwood sequoias. Like, how did they get so big? If you've gone to like Muir Woods out in Northern California, you just bow down. And if you visit, it says, please be quiet, because The trees are talking for those of us who are sensitive to energy. It's like, don't talk right now. This tree, I'm getting a message. I'm getting ancestors are coming through, right? Yeah. Here, I'm going to give you the microphone. Yeah, I'd love to hear you. Uh-oh, maybe. Okay, wait, let's make sure we turn it on so the Zoom folks can hear you.
Yeah. So they discovered that trees have like the roots. So let's say I'm thirsty and the next tree next to me has enough water. He would pass the water through the roots to the tree next to him. He could feel like the trees can feel when one of the members of the trees haven't had enough water or so forth, and they would pass it through the roots. And if a tree dies and still has in within him water and nutrients, etc., he would pass it underneath the roots to the different trees around him, and they're all connected. And also I saw one thing on Instagram, so I don't remember it perfectly, that in every forest there are certain songbirds, and the song of the birds actually makes a difference in the way the trees and the leaves are becoming and being nourished by the specific
That
way.
sound.
Yeah, by the
Yes.
specific sound of the specific bird at each place.
So
So yeah.
beautiful.
So I
Yeah,
just wanted
thank
to do
you.
some
And I
research to back it up.
exactly. And also, it's really important. There's tons of research on all this. This is like 10 years ago, they would have been like, you guys are crazy. The trees don't talk, right? They're just inanimate objects sitting there until, but exactly. So if you think about that, the very sound vibration of the songs are hitting the trees and forming them. Well, aren't people like that? Our sound, our words, if we're speaking truth and love, that hits you differently than if I was cruel and mean. I was saying things, right? So you see the songs that are being played right now are they're cruel sounding. So they're making the trees sicker. They're making the forest literally sick. Right. And so I see life very much connected to this. Maybe as I'm also a medicine woman, and part of my spirit is very much connected to that, but also deep in the Dharma, weaving this, right? Seeing us as ecology. We are the forest, we are the trees. So when I see Jack as an old ancient tree, he was already coming in with that. This was just a memory, as a young man, he was already drawn to go to Thailand and be a monk and all, he came in with that ancient energy. A lot of people do. Some people they remember early and some people remember later, right? And so the songs, of course, the songs of the birds, that's why we want all the beautiful songs of the Dharma being shared, played, amplified, songs of love, songs of compassion, songs of liberation, when the songs of hatred, and even songs of starving trees, like we're going to kill you or chop you or deprive you of nutrients. You're wounded, we cut you down. It's that. It's the same as what happens. It's the psychology. So I frame it like that, not for us to be hopeless, but to recognize our role in the forest. you know, Alice Walker was a mentor of mine for a lot of years. She used to always say the one way people give up power is believing they have none. And that is the biggest crime is to believe that you're a tree in the forest with no power. It's like, no, our spiritual maturity, our hearts are actually what makes the tree the strongest. So we were having this conversation. We went out to dinner after Saturday, all of us, and we were obviously talking about the world. How could we not? And not in a sad way, but it was like, well, what's on the other end of this? And it was like all of us got back to it's just the love, compassion again. It's the heart. It's the heart. And so those trees have the most heart because the heart is what? Intuitive. Somebody's thirsty next to us. Don't we kind of know, right? It doesn't take a lot, right? We become the tree that goes, oh, look, I have more. I can give you some water. Like, look how much I have. instead of the tree in the forest hoarding all the nutrients and all the other trees are dying and like, sorry, it just doesn't happen so much like that. It's like this intelligence. So I think our time is about becoming the big trees, becoming the mature trees, growing. And that comes through the heart. I also want to tell you a story. And then I want to pause and have us break up a little bit because I actually don't want to just sit and talk, but let's engage with it a little bit more. Does that sound good? There's just to kind of talk about meeting this moment with power and love. What is that? Where is our power and love? It's here. Right? Everyone kind of it goes like this. Hey, all you people, open your hearts. We point to the people on TV or whatever. Oh, only they could, and we don't even know how to do that really. Right? We're expecting others to be the big trees. They don't have any idea how to do it. Right? So I have a story I want to tell you, and I don't know why this popped into my mind. Maybe it's something about Thich Nhat Hanh and just thinking about his legacy and Plum Village, and I'm loving that there's somebody on there in France from Plum Village, and also they opened a big center, a giant meditation center in Mississippi. It's on hundreds of acres. I haven't been there yet. I actually want to make a pilgrimage to Mississippi. I'm still getting used to being in Georgia. I'm still like, oh my God, okay, I'm really here. Every time I fly back to Atlanta or I look at my license, I'm like, it's still a shock and some shocking, I never thought I would live in the South. I'm only an hour away from Birmingham, Alabama. We need big trees back in the South. That's when I look around, I'm like, oh gosh, where are the big trees? There was a lot of civil rights big trees though. But Dr. King's tree is so planted in the middle of that city in Memorial Park, right? His house, his childhood home. I moved really close to there in early days when I was like scared living in Atlanta for the first beginning because I was not scared of the people. I was just scared of the idea of being a Southerner. I was like, wait, I'm California, I'm from Long Beach. It's not the safest neighborhood in East Long Beach, but the South felt different. And I would go on these long walks all around. The beautiful thing about Atlanta is all the sidewalks. You could just walk hours and all the historical neighborhoods, glorious. And I could hear his voice amplified out on the tours around Memorial Park. So it was literally like all the time they're playing any moment in the right, when the horn stop, you catch the dream speech. And it's like, wow, it's still being played. So that's really, really beautiful. So there are some big trees there. But so I appreciate Thich Nhat Hanh and I appreciate Martin Luther King. And I know Martin Luther King uh, nominated Thich Nhat Hanh for a Nobel Prize, Nobel Peace Prize. And they had a deep friendship. And that this Mississippi temple, it's all the images of them together. It's like somebody built a big statue and as you drive in, they're right there, like these two trees, these two pillars of peace, right? And how much we need that right now, because it feels like the current climate is just cutting it all down, right? Oh no, not these types, right? And but don't lose heart because even the stumps grow back, right? So even the stumps grow back. So quick story, and then I want us to have a little time. This is kind of, I don't know why I wanted to tell you this, but I am a storyteller. So in 2016, I wrote this book called A Fierce Heart, Finding Strength, Courage, and Wisdom in Any Moment. I'm sorry I didn't bring you guys copies. I never have them or to get them on Amazon. Sorry. Um, and I wrote the book for our Oakland community, really. I wanted a Dharma book that could speak to anybody, right? I was like, I want to make the Dharma really accessible. because everybody in downtown Oakland used to always say, "What is the Dharma? What is this?" They would come into our center and do a night, an evening, and they would go, "Wow, that was nice. What kind of practice is this? It's Buddhism? What is that?" So I thought, I'm gonna write a book and put everything in there, and then here you go, here you go. And I don't know, I gave away probably 5,000 copies. So it was never, oh my gosh, you have books here. You don't have to see them. This must have been from, I had a book launch. Well, yeah, this is the book for the Oakland people. I love it. And for all people, not just Oakland people, all people, right? And the Jack wrote the foreword. And thank you. That's so great. Yeah. And so I remember I was going on a book tour and I remember I Parallax Press, Thich Nhat Hanh was the publisher of this. My new publisher bought it, but it was originally through them. And they had this little one woman marketing team, and she goes, "Well, I'm gonna have you go to St. Louis." And I was like, "St. Louis? But I'm from California. Are you sure?" And I got invited to do this like meta weekend. St. Louis has a sangha there, a kind of thriving sangha of people who practice. And so they invited me to come out, and they're like, "Bring your new book." And I was like, "Okay," and I led a weekend meta retreat for like 40 people or something. But so my publisher goes, "Great, we're gonna have you do a huge book signing in St. Louis." And I was like, I had this weird feeling about that. I was like, but I don't know anyone in St. Louis. Maybe I should just stick to California. I'm really just an Oakland teacher. I never even went to St. Louis before. She was like, no, there's this really cool bookstore. Everybody loves it. And they put all this time and energy, and the bookstore woman was so excited. And I was like, okay, okay. So I get into town, and the woman from the St. Louis Sangha picks me up, was like, your book signing. And I was like, okay. And we get out, and she's like, this is the bookstore. And they had this huge display in the window. They bought 50 books, thinking they're gonna have crowds of people buying all the books, because bookstores only buy books they know are gonna sell. They don't want to have inventory piled up for years. And so we get in there and we look around, and there's no one there. And they had this whole blow up of my face and the book. And I'm like, I go, I was like, hi, well, okay. And I started to feel really bad. It was supposed to start at like 6, and it's like 6:01. And the woman at the store was like looking around, piles of Fierce Heart, this book everywhere. A whole area set up like for 40 people or something like. And I'm like sitting there. So I just sat down, and I said this sad feeling, right? And then I hear from the side of the door opens, and this woman comes in, and she goes, Spring Washam, Spring. And she has a book, and she runs in, and she's like, oh my God, I love your book. I proceeded to have an hour conversation with this beautiful woman. It was the best conversation I ever had. She was lovely. She's a friend now. And she was the reason I was there that night, because she needed to have that conversation. It was so profound. So I guess where I'm going to tie that is even if you fly across the US for one person, it was really worth it. And we had a lovely time. And I was like, if you hadn't come, I would have been so sad. And she was like, if you hadn't come, I would have been so sad. This book, I've been carrying it around with me for a month. And I thought, wow, life is so funny. So I guess this is to say, don't underestimate your own heart in that. She saved my book signing. So I didn't have a party no one came to. So anyway, we're gonna stop there. But is this making sense where we're going with this? It's really like the love and the power is in you. It's in your recognition and your own wanting to be that big tree. And your big tree is not like Jack Cornfield's. It's not like Spring. It's not like anyone you've seen before. It's you. You're what you have is what's needed. So I just want us to break up a little bit and just talk about that. Does that sound good? Just to have a moment. So let's break into groups of three and online. Please stay on if you're able to stay on and just let's have groups of three and just to talk about this big tree, small tree, where we the eco world, the eco village. Here we are, interconnected. It's another way to describe interconnectedness. That's what we're saying, right? And so where's your power and love in that? Don't look for me to say, here's what I think. I mean, I'm giving you my ideas, but ultimately, it's you, right? It's you. It's all of us together. We are nature. And that's the thing, right? We're the elements. So the earth becomes just an extension of our spiritual. It's hard to even describe. I'm just, in the moment with words. It just becomes so obvious, the interconnectedness. And it's hard to explain to me what is obvious to people that don't see that. And I was talking to my friend the other night. I go, how do you teach the obvious? And he was like, we have to figure this out. Then I asked that to Jack. Jack, how do you teach what's so obvious to those that don't see that? And he was just come back to the heart. You'll only get it there. By the way, all the questions I ever have, we always circle back to that. Don't make it fancy. Just stay in the heart chakra. That's your medicine, right? And I think that that's all of our medicine. Just a little bit more then. We'll just have a little bit more because just want to say a couple of things. I wanted to do a quick meditation. I know it's getting late, later and later for our evening. And yeah, just really thinking about that. How do you teach the obvious? Hmm. Yeah, how do you teach the obvious? So through the heart, and my grandmother anime French. I just have to say a couple things about anime French. I wrote about her in my Harriet Tubman book because we were on a chapter talking about women, and Harriet Tubman was a huge advocate for women's rights after she went through the Civil Wars, war hero. And she only stayed on her farm. She had bought her own farm in upstate Auburn, New York, and had a farm going and like a kind of like an Airbnb on that farm a little bit. People would rent rooms and so forth. But she didn't stay there long before Susan B. Anthony came and was like, we got to go on a tour. We've got to get the 15th Amendment. We need to vote, right? And fired up, all those abolitionists immediately turned their attention to the next issue, which was women, right? So off Harriet went and actually wrote about that being a much almost harder, more dangerous task. They were attacked way more viciously, outright, where other things would kind of be hidden in the dark. Here, they just went right for the. So anyway, I wrote a chapter in that, and we were talking about the women in our lives. And my grandmother, Anime French, she was such a heart-centered person. And so much of her power came from loving people, not judging them, and feeding them, which is very Neem Curly Baba, actually. Love, serve. When Ram Dass would go and go, I don't know what to do. He would have all these intellectual questions. He would just say, just love and feed the people. Go by, right? Go. And he'd be like, looking for these big, complex answers. Just love, feed the people. Love, feed the people. Love, feed the people. And I didn't recognize, sometimes when you live close to someone who has these great paramis of love, you don't recognize equanimity. You don't recognize, you're looking for something else, right? You're looking like, no, but my grandmother had 7 children, and she had this little tiny house. And she loved photos. So her entire living room was filled with family photos. You know how you should go to those photo places and it'd be the mom, the dad, and there would always be 8 by 10 and kind of these like gold frames. So every year they would give her another photo, and you have 7 kids, and their kids had like 7 kids, and those kids had. So I would visit her in Delaware. She's from Wilmington, Delaware, and I would go visit her when I would leave Insight Meditation Society after a 3-month retreat. And she was a devout Christian. Oh my God. She went to church twice a week and did church functions, cooked and organized. And on her, anytime she was not working, she was doing some church related thing. But she always thought it was so interesting when I would tell her about Buddhism. She'd be like, "So you just pray all day?" Hmm. And like she was so open-minded, right? Because she would always be like, "Well, this is my California granddaughter," right? Soon as I would come over, she would call all her friends in the apartment buildings all around. My California granddaughter's here. My California granddaughter's here. And she never really was around white people, except she worked for rich white families. She was their housekeeper. My grandmother wore a maid's uniform her entire life from 12 to 70, right? I never saw, she would take it off when she came home, but she was very much classic that, right? And so she always felt sad because she had 7 kids of her own, and she's like, I never got to raise them. They were always alone, had to take care of themselves. I was always at work, raising other people's kids. And she just used, and she dealt with all kinds of like racism and suffering, and she just never took it on. It never got to her. And so in her house, there would be this. So when I would come over after the 3-month retreat, it would end around, December, and I would always spend a whole bunch of like 2 or 3 weeks at her house. You would be in the living room, you walk in, and she would just have all this lemon pound cake and sweet tea with like pounds of sugar in it. You'd be like, wow, okay. And it would be this sea of smiling black faces. It was the living family tree walls, walls on walls. And she'd be like, here's so and so, and that's his children. Aren't they cute? And then she'd be looking at these pictures for years too, but they were always like new when she would look. There was no space left anywhere, everybody. I mean, literally imagine this. Every wall was a family photo. And my uncles, just to show you how beautiful her heart was, my uncles were notorious womanizers. They were all married, but they had many children not from those marriages. And so my grandmother had the same phone number for 50 years. All these women would call my grandmother and she'd be on the phone. Oh my God, bring that baby over here right now. Bring the baby over here. It's my baby. It's my grandbaby. And then sure enough, they would go up on the wall. And my uncles would be over there and their wives, and they'd be like, and my grandmother never said a word. No one said anything, but they all knew those were their kids. And she was like, you might not take care of them. Those are my grandchildren. And my mother was white, and my father and her got married, and then they divorced. And my grandmother, would have my mother over, and my grandmother was always like, she's the sweetest Caucasian woman. So sweet. So sweet. And she always said Caucasian, which I thought was funny. I was like, wow, that's so old fashioned. She'd be like, her mother is the nicest Caucasian woman. Just so no one had ever been kind to my grandmother that wasn't. She lived in it was very segregated. And Wilmington, Delaware is a line of segregation. And it was just so interesting. I watched her say that, and she just has so much love. It didn't matter. And she would tell me, I was a vegan, and she would watch me. She would make all this food because she cooked soul food out of her kitchen, piles of chicken and beans and rice and ham hocks, everything, right? And everybody would be like at the table. She just cooked. I don't even know how the kitchen was this big. It was like tinier than that little kitchen. Just it was like magic. It would just be like, but then I think about it now, and she was always at the table cooking and chopping. She was chopping all the time, like, but we was so used to it, you didn't even notice she was all day. It was just like a thing. She was making food all day long. We just didn't even notice it because somehow it was like her. It just was so familiar. But she would stare at my plate with her friends and be like, she's a vegan. They don't eat meat. And they'd all watch me like, veganism. It was like a disease. But she never said anything. It was part of her California granddaughter and her Buddhist practice and all of that. There was never even a thought, you don't belong here. We love you. You are me. You are my granddaughter. And that love, is just so sweet. And the last thing I want to share, because it's about how much she was a big tree. See, people could overlook that as a big tree and not see it as a big tree. And I didn't realize how much love she was feeding and how I needed that because my family really was a mess then, right? How much she was sharing all this light and love and tradition and being like, you're wanted here. And she had my picture on the wall, a bunch of pictures my mother would send. We were all sprinkled in, my sister and I. And my mother too. A picture of my mother was there too. And so she once showed me the last story I'll say is she once shared, she would always have photo albums stacked up. Every closet in the house would be these old photo albums just crammed everywhere, right? So first thing I would do after I had, 10 slices of cake and all the stuff, right? I'd be like, then we would get the photo albums out, right? And it would just be hours of even more family photos. But I once saw this gorgeous picture of her. For me, I always thought she was born old. It was very shocking to imagine that she was 18 when she always had that uniform with the curls hair and she was just classic, fat, jolly. If you looked up black grandmother, Southern fat, just like it was archetypal. That's what I'm trying to say, an archetype of that. And so, and she was like that for everybody. Her phone never stopped ringing. Somebody was at the hospital, somebody was in jail, somebody house got broken in. It was just a constant, here you go, here putting out fires, right? Support. Someone's needs their kids, they have to go to the hospital. Bring those babies over here, I'll watch them for 2 hours. All the young mothers, it was just like 1,000 armed Chenrezig or something. And it just didn't happen. There was no resentment. There was no, it was just love expression like this, right? So I was in the photo and I saw this picture of her and I was like, oh my God, look at you, right? And I was like, she looked very shy with a red, and it was a yellow bathing suit and she was on this beach. I was like, where were you? Look at you have a bathing suit on. And she's like, oh yes, I was when I just got married and we went to Atlantic City. And she talked about how she had always wanted to go to the ocean and she saved up her money from being a housekeeper, everyone, for 1 year to save for a trip to Atlantic City. Atlantic City is only 2 hours, but it might as well have been around the world, right? When you don't have any money beyond what you just have enough. So to save to go on a bus trip and spend a night and have all that was like a big deal. And so I was like, oh my God, you look so cute. And I said, so she started telling me about the trip. She's like, oh, I was so happy. I wanted to see the ocean so badly. Oh, it was so fun. So all of us, we got on the bus and got the ticket and went to Atlantic City. But then when we got to Atlantic City, they wouldn't let the beach was segregated. And so she said they tried to find the part of the beach for Black people. And all the whole beach said white only, white only, white only. And there was police officers enforcing that. And she said they herded us over to this tiny sliver of the beach, like way in the corner. And there was like all these Black families. And she was like, she was telling me the story, and I was like, wow, I can't believe my grandmother really lived through segregation. Like I'm just like a shock, right? I'm taking it in. And she's telling the story, and I look up at her and I go, well, how did you feel? And she looked down, she burst out laughing. She goes, we had so much fun on that little piece of beach. Like it was equanimity. She's like, we made the best out of it. We could see everything. We weren't allowed to go over there. But she said, we laughed and we had fun. Like, was like, I said, you don't have any resentment around that? And she's like, no, the Lord knows I'll see the ocean, the full ocean. I've seen it since. It's okay. I forgive those folks. And it was like no resentment. Stayed for a year to get on regulated to a tiny piece of the ocean, like, and it was empty. She said a lot of the other part. They weren't allowed on it, but no one else was either. And I just thought to see the love and the forgiveness, there was no bitterness. It was really like, I forgive you. And we had so much fun on that piece of that beach. We laughed, we were there, we loved it. It hurt, but we loved it. We wanted to go out but so it was in that moment that I realized, like, man, I'm in the presence of something much more than I think I underestimated it. And now that she's gone, it's like I have these memories. I'm like, wow, those were transmissions actually of like forgive, Springy, and accept everybody, love everybody, feed everybody. So our power, everyone, is in that. Our love and our power is like, can we love everybody? Can we feed everybody? Can we remember that, we're a big tree, even when we don't even aware of it, how we're affecting everyone around us. There may be people in your life you say something to and you shifting them just by your forgiveness, by your kindness, by your driving across town with a casserole, someone's in the hospital and how much it means. I've been in the hospital and got a casserole and I was cried and I'm like, thank you. It's so sweet. It's like the sweetest thing ever. And like, can we just do those little things? Yeah, so that's my role in the revolution right now. It's like, can I be the big tree? But you get big by doing the little things, right? Over and over. You grow. That makes sense, everyone, right? We do the little things. So everyone keeps waiting for this grandiose nirvana experience before they help anyone, right? We're all like looking at, well, look at what's going on in Sudan, and we have to, we get paralyzed. But what's going on in your neighborhood that we can maybe affect change? What about walking there and doing something there? Right? It's like we keep wanting it to be big, but it's not always big. It's the tiniest act of kindness. It's just saying hi, is reaching out. You know what I mean? There was simple things my grandmother did that were overlooked. I didn't see it because it just seemed simple. Oh, right, someone's here. They're driving to go get them. Like, I didn't get it. Oh, right. They went and rescued someone just now, right? From some suffering state and brought them somewhere else and cooked something and did something. It's like, right now I'm like, oh my God, every moment. And then thanking Jesus every 20, 30 minutes. That gratitude. Oh, right. Thank the Lord again. Let's thank the Lord again. It reminds me of like a prayer. It's like a bodhisattva prayer, right? I'm not doing it. There's a higher power behind it. And I didn't even get when I would tell my grandmother, how is it that you're just so loving in the face of all these issues? Because her kids were just always in trouble, in jail. My father was a torment, he was just like, oh, he just so many problems. And she would just keep on keeping on. And that's what she would say. You got to keep on keeping on, Springy. There's nothing to it. You just get up and keep on keeping on. That's what we do here. Right. And there's no time to like, and I would say, how do you do it? How do you have so much meta? And she would say it was Jesus. And I didn't even believe that. I was like, oh my God, there she goes, giving it all her power away instead of seeing she was a channeling that power. Yeah, she was a big tree in her and well, for me and all of us. Now all of us sit around crying about it in our family, going, Anna Mae, why didn't we see how amazing she was, right? But we see it now. And I fear because she got her last 2 years of her life, she got Alzheimer and passed away kind of quickly. And even when she had Alzheimer's, she was just in her house. They didn't take her out of her house. They left her and then they started doing around the clock care. And all the love came back to her in those last years of her life. Everybody took turns bringing her food, caring for her as she wasn't allowed. But she kept trying to cook up until the last, and that was causing problems because obviously she would turn on all the switches and wander out and there'd be a big drama and trying to make her cakes and her biggest thing was to try to stop her from serving because she kept trying to do it and she didn't understand why we were stopping her. Yeah. But, big trees look different. So I don't underestimate you, don't underestimate us. And let's try to work on the little things over and over with great heart, the tiny things. Who needs us tomorrow? Okay, can I extend that as a practice? And some days we say, I can't, and say that that's good too. But sometimes we can. And actually, that extending ourselves brings us joy. It pulls you out of your funk. You know how we're all like sitting in, oh, we get stuck in our world. The extending out actually brings us into the heart and becomes our medicine. I noticed that, like my not wanting to go somewhere, do something, and then I'm like, oh, okay, but no, and then I go do it, and I always feel like, I'm so glad I did it. I extended, and I was met with love in that moment. So we can remember that. So, any other final things? We're going to do a last little quick meditation. And everybody, thank you for hanging with me. Does anyone on the online have a comment or anything? It's beautiful to see your faces and just want to make space if anyone has a comment or a reflection. Yeah. Okay. Let's do a quick closing meditation. And let's just focus on offering ourselves metta, right? And so as we sit here, I want you to imagine that you are this great tree and that the real magic is in the heart center, the heart of the tree, the heart, the wood at the center, the heart's chakra. So let's just take a moment just to breathe in and out of the heart for a moment and then just inviting in this meta of all the big trees in the universe. Let's just breathe it into our heart. They're already doing it. They're just going to be conscious now and breathe in all this nutrient of the hearts of the Tara and Kuan Yin, the hearts of Mother Mary, Avalokiteshvara. Mm. In the hearts of our great grandmothers and grandmothers throughout all time and space. And we offer this metta to our hearts. May my heart be happy and peaceful. And I like to do that practice with my heart chakra. And sometimes I'll put my hand on my heart. So if you feel like doing that, you can. So just breathing in. May my heart be safe and protected. May my heart be healthy and strong in this body. And may my heart live with ease and joy and well being. And so, as you breathe in, just breathing in all of the metta, all of the light from all the big trees, all the compassion coming into your body, into your heart. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. And may I be healthy and strong in this body. And imagine all of your root systems are the cells, the arteries, the veins. We are mycelium. Imagine this, all your channels are being filled up with this power, this love, this resilience. And live with ease and joy and well being. Imagine all of your nadis and chakras are being filled up with this elixir of truth and wisdom, compassion, and patience and joy, perseverance, knowledge, filling you up with truth, clarity, truthfulness, and ethics. Bodhicitta, bodhicitta, bodhisattva hearts. And as we take a big breath in and a big breath out, we say thank you. Thank whoever you want, Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, Krishna, the earth, the sky, the universe. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much, everyone.